And we would like now to move to a very, very important topic. And I would like to allow me to introduce Romy, our communication director, who most of you already know, and Priyanka Nandi, our global chief information and technology, digital products and technology, who will lead the next session. As you may already know, one of our priority areas, which Mary also mentioned, is to digitize the movement. And we are aware of the challenges digital access has in many parts of the developing world, which includes many parts of Africa. Our objective is to work together and explore creative ways to make digital access possible wherever we can. And we know it will take time in some parts of Africa, because in some of these places, there's no or limited infrastructure that supports digital access. There's a saying, the first step on a long journey is half the journey completed. What matters is the intention and the effort. Let me take this digital trip. I would like us to take this digital trip together with everyone, and we can make the digital access, success one day in future. We live in a world of diversity, and our role in Special Olympics is to provide equal opportunities to all. We have programs and individuals in the Africa region that are digitally ready. And our role is to help them get further, to cross the line and get further. And we also have those that are eager to try with the limited resources at their disposal. We need to work with them too to help them succeed in this regard. And finally, we have those that have no resources or infrastructure that will support digital access. That's a reality. We have to work with these two to find alternatives. No one must be left behind. Similarly, in sport and competition, that is the reason in Special Olympics we have what we call divisioning of athletes, because of the different abilities. We understand diversity. Joining us during this session today will be two Special Olympics programs, Special Olympics Nigeria and Special Olympics Gambia, to share their best practices in this regard. The program speakers will be introduced later during the session. I will hand over to the experts to share these related opportunities and possibilities. Romy, thank you.
Bonjour, bon dia, buenos dias, hujambo, nagadef, jamrek, assalamu alaikum, ekaro, and ekabo. We are pleased to welcome you, our Africa Region program leaders, as well as our Facebook live stream viewers, to this open session on digitizing the movement. To kick off and get you thinking before we started our presentations, we were inviting your contributions to a Padlet, answering the question of what is your favorite digital platform. Due to time, we'll share this tomorrow, but please check out the link to see some of the great answers our Athlete Input Council has already submitted and their feedback and photographs, and we'll have a look at it tomorrow morning in the break. So please follow the link in the chat box. We have a wonderful lineup of speakers to share more on this topic and share their learnings from both the global and local perspectives. First up, I'll be welcoming Ms. Priyanka Nandi, Chief Information and Technology Officer from Special Olympics International, to share the global perspective on digitizing the movement drive coming from headquarters. Following that, we will focus the conversation into Africa region and what we've learned over the past 2 years. We'll look at some of the realities that we face, as mentioned by Charles, acknowledging our challenges and highlighting the opportunities as we move into the future. Then we'll get specific with best practice examples presented by Ms. Cecilia Abel-Thomas, National Director, and Ms. Fatou Sek, Program Administration Assistant from Special Olympics Gambia. And finally, from Special Olympics Nigeria, a discussion presented by Ms. Ibiyemi Ayeni, Program Initiatives Manager. First up is Priyanka, who you may have met on past Special Olympics Global webinars. Over the last 18 months with our movement, she has been leading the charge on digital transformation and data initiatives for Special Olympics, including corporate and external digital product development and our IT network operations. Priyanka has both federal and international development experience, leading global projects for the World Bank Group and serving as the first Chief Data Officer for the United Nations World Food Programme, looking at the overall data engineering, analytics, and data governance. So we really appreciate her hands-on experience. Thank you for being with us today in person, Priyanka. We know it's early, and I'd like to skip over to you, please, without any further ado.
Thank you, Romy, and thank you very much, Charles, for this opportunity to be with you. Very excited to see my fellow speakers also share their best practices, because I believe a lot of what they will share are things that we can all learn from, especially at the headquarters level. It's important that in which you all do your work every day, so the solutions and the ideas that we bring from headquarters can be applicable and usable by you over time. And as Charles said, this is a long journey. We do not believe that digitization is something that we can accomplish necessarily in one strategic plan cycle, but it's something that we should be thinking about every day as part of our work. So to start with the basics, COVID-19 obviously was a huge challenge for many organizations across the world, and especially ours, where we had to think about shutting down our activities, staying home to keep our athletes safe. But also, how was COVID-19 a digital accelerator for our organization? How did we have to adapt and pivot and utilize digital technology to make sure we stayed connected with our athletes, with our families, our coaches, our volunteers? And if you look at these examples here, you can see that every part of our society had to adapt, from our medical practitioners to our educators to our sport athletes, and really think about not just how did we use digital during this time when we could not be together, but also how we might use digital as we come out of the pandemic and build back our programs. So why are we focusing on digitizing the movement? Well, we need a growth engine, and we can see this in every major economy in the world, where we have new careers, new skill sets, new technology. And this is really the idea of being able to use technology as an enabler to reach more audiences, to raise more funds, to recruit and onboard future athletes, coaches, donors, and volunteers, but also start to think about how might we use the data that we collect about our population and our stakeholders to make better decisions, to be able to improve our programming, to see the quality of our work improve over time. So in this example, what we're saying here is that our business decisions and our organizational decisions should drive the strategy for the technology we use. Technology should not be driving the way we do our business. So really, technology here is a supporter and business is the driver. So where do we start? As Charles mentioned, every single program might be on a different digital journey, but that's okay. There's still 3 major principles we want to think about when we start thinking about digitizing any of our organizations. And the first is always our people. So the people that do our work every day with our athletes, our coaches, our volunteers, we need to start thinking about how can technology help and support our people, especially our staff. Next is the processes that we think about every day. So the work that we do, how might that be improved, either made more efficient or more effective utilizing technology? And the third is actually the technology itself. It's really important to think about these three elements as three things that need to be in balance. At the center of all of this is the data that we utilize to make those decisions around the people, the process, and the technology. So when we start talking about people, it's very important to start to understand the foundation of digital and data skills that we would like our organization start to embrace and integrate into our work. On the left side, here are some examples of applications on our mobile devices and our browsers that we can access for free in many cases to take a whole host of learning and knowledge and bring that to our staff, our volunteers, and anyone who's focused as part of our movement on improving their skill set and providing these skills back into our work. So topics such as math and science, digital marketing, career development, data analysis. There are many examples of portals and knowledge sharing applications that we can utilize to start on this journey. And I'd like to point out here that Microsoft has generously donated the ability for any program staff person to be able to receive Microsoft certifications. So those of you who have invested in Microsoft technology will have access to training. The training is primarily online, but can be done at your own pace. And if you would like to have more information, please contact me so we can share access to these resources. So the Special Olympics digital portfolio is quite broad, and I'll be sharing a couple of examples of the work that we're doing at headquarters that we're also deploying globally. It covers everything from the program, products, and services that we provide you all as our programs, the digital enterprise solutions and the operations that we manage on a day-to-day basis, the software that we provide at our major games and events, our digital health portfolio, which is growing and quite exciting, some of the areas of innovation that we're focused on, and most importantly, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in depth, is the data that we utilize to support improving our programming over time. So let's start talking about data. This is probably one of my favorite topics. Earlier this year, we started what we call ADAPT, which is the Athlete Data Project. And this was a project that actually started within this North American region, where several states in the United States started to look at the data that they collected on their athletes, specifically how many athletes they had in their program. How often did those athletes participate in sport and competition? How often did those athletes stay in the program? And how long did they retain these athletes? And what they were really interested in is making sure that they were looking at ways to attract new athletes over time. Many of you may be familiar with the fact that sports participation globally with youth is starting to decline. This is information that can be found through many research studies. And so it's important to get ahead of this concept. You know, as our population is aging out, how are we thinking about bringing new athletes? So this is an example now. We've decided to grow this project and start working with more programs to be able to look at this data in a more automated fashion. So what we're looking at here is an example of a dashboard of where we're able to show information automatically on program retention, time in the program, years in the program by age group, the people participating by age group, and new people per year. So the end goal here is to have a data portal for programs, for those programs that could find this information valuable for them and are collecting this information as part of their work. So we meet as a data collective group every other week, and we invite any of you who are part of this call to join this project and learn. Another example of innovation in the data collection space is thinking about collecting data offline as well as online. So there's now new technology that's available for free. For example, on the left side, we have an app that you can download on your device and scan handwritten information and then have that be translated into machine information. So by taking a picture of a piece of paper, we can now translate that into text, and that can be done for free. In the middle, we have an app example from a company called ComCare, which allows you to create forms and collect data offline on a phone or mobile device. And then once you collect that information, once you have internet access, you can upload or download that information online. And then the right example is a product called ONA. It does the same thing. ONA is actually developed by a company in Kenya. And what they've done is, again, created an offline data collection app. And once you're online, you'll be able to upload that information and start to visualize data as you need it. So what's our data roadmap in the future state? Well, we'd like to think that it starts today by building a strong data culture and thinking about how you might integrate data into more of your decision-making in your operations. How might you make your program more efficient and effective? So we're going to do this by focusing on projects like ADAPT, where we'd like to invite programs to share with us some of their data challenges so we can work on those together. We'd like to apply lessons learned to as many programs as we can through the movement-wide data group, working group. We'd like to provide you with a data portal, should that be for your program. And in this fall, we'd like to launch our first Special Olympics Data Summit, so we can bring examples of your work to the rest of the organization. And of course, we'd love to think about this as a Special Olympics open source community. The more we can learn from each other, the more we will be able to make progress on this digitization journey. So to talk a little bit about examples of projects that we are working on at SOI, we'd start to think about the different projects and products that programs need and really start thinking about the pain points that we can solve. So one of the largest needs that we've been hearing about is the ability to register, count, and trace our athletes through competition and all the way to major games. So we're now focused on a new solution and building a new solution that's specifically tailored for program needs. This solution would be both online and offline. And this solution would be separate from the solution that we utilize at major games, because we believe that the needs of the local programs are more unique and require a tailored solution than the one that we typically have for major games. As you may be aware, we have a games management system that has been in production for many years now. We're still supporting that system. And this year we'll be upgrading it to version 8 that will allow us to have better analytics and reporting for those programs that utilize it. Again, if any of you are interested in learning more about these solutions, please do reach out to me and my team. Another example of innovation happening for our major events is the 2022 Special Olympics USA Games app. This is a great example of the local organizing committee in Florida building an app that will be available to the rest of the movement as part of their legacy. But the example that you're seeing here is an app that's really designed for the participant at the games. So how can we make that experience attending the games more exciting and more valuable with information at your fingertips? So this is looking at our athletes' schedules, where they'll be at any given time during the event, being able to send them virtual cheers so they feel that they're getting encouragement. Even if a family member or a friend can't attend the games, you can still send them a congratulations. You can take photographs at the event and share them with your athlete or with each other. But the goal here is, again, to really make that experience of the attendees and the athletes much more modern during the games. Another large area that we're focused on is our digital health portfolio. We think of sport as medicine, of course. So here are just some examples of the way that we're integrating digital into our health work. COVID obviously showed us that without being able to meet in person, we couldn't do our healthy athletes experiences in person anymore. So how might we take those healthy athlete screenings and start doing them online? How might we do our trainings and do them virtually for our clinical directors and for our volunteers focus on inclusive health? For our young athletes program, how might we engage our families and our caretakers sharing about early childhood development milestones using a mobile app? So these are just some examples, including our fitness work. So how might we connect our wearables to an app to make sure that we're still able to track our fitness progress, even though we're at home? So each of these projects are examples of how we've incorporated digital into our health work. And we're looking to expand this in the coming years with support from organizations like the CDC. So really, again, focused on online and offline data capture, looking at how we secure our athlete medical records, how might we expand our virtual screening experience, and also how might we do our referrals to our athletes using digital. This year, we had to focus on keeping our athletes safe. So in order to prepare for our programs to return to activities, we launched a Return to Activity app. The app was an opportunity for a program to be able to decide when to open up and how to open up safely. And this is by taking a program assessment to say, based on the size of our event, can we open up safely? Which part of the protocol should we be following? It also allowed us to collect COVID-19 vaccine information, both offline and online. And it allowed us to import this information and use this information for reporting and tracking, so we knew when the right time to open up would be. So here's some information on how you can learn about the Return to Activities app at this website. Another exciting project to share is our Unified Generation app. The Special Olympics North America program has been working on this for several months now. It's very exciting, and it'll be launching next month. This app is meant for youth to really look at how we might incorporate digital and social emotional learning programs that we provide at our Unified Champions schools worldwide. We're starting with launching the app in the US, both on Android and Apple devices. However, this app will be available globally. And it's really to allow students to interact with each other with ID and without ID in a Unified Champions school, take challenges, start to gamify the experience of learning how to be more inclusive. And again, educators can use this as a tool for learning. And then general supporters of Special Olympics and the public will also have access to this app to be able to learn how we start as young as possible thinking about the inclusion revolution. And then the last example that can't help but talk about, because I am a gamer, so let's talk about gaming for inclusion. So many of you may be aware that the gaming industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. We have people of all ages, all demographics playing games of all kinds, both educational, sport, and so forth. So Special Olympics International teamed up with Xbox and Microsoft in this past year to bring this to a virtual experience for our athletes. Some of our athletes, as you know, have been isolated for the last 24 months, and they are also gamers. So how can they use the gaming environment to teach others about inclusion and have gaming be seen as a safe space, as a place where you could be who you are, regardless of your ability, and also connect with others. So this was an online tournament where we had over 100 athletes participating, and they played several sports-oriented games for three to 4 days. And at the end, they had a celebrity tournament broadcast on YouTube and Discord. And the result of this is we had over 500,000 viewers of the celebrity tournament by the end of this competition, which is an amazing number if you think about it, to be able to witness our movement in this new innovative way. And we are planning to have another version of this happening this fall. So please stay tuned on that. And I won't be remiss without talking about digital disruption. Some of you may be familiar that the virtual world is now starting to bleed into reality. So the more we look at companies like Meta, like OpenSea, the cryptocurrency solution, TikTok, Twitch, these are new platforms and new economies for the world, thinking about how do we look at the virtual world as an area that we start to grow into. Still very early days, but this is something that my team and others around our organization are thinking about. Should we be thinking about virtual competitions? Should we be thinking about extending the use of Zoom and these products as we move forward? I think it's important to pay attention to these trends as they come and start thinking about what are some of the ways that we might incorporate this in our work moving forward. So really the future is here now. Where might we use these technologies to meet our stakeholders where they are? So I want to stop there and say thank you. Thank you, Romy. Thank you, Charles, for this opportunity to share this at a high level. I hope that you all have a good rest of your conference, and I'm looking forward to collaborating with you in the future.
Thank you, Priyanka, for sharing these exciting global developments with us in framing our discussion. And we'll be asking you to please stay on the line. One thing that I neglected to say is that we will be having a question and answer session to hear from you for your questions for our panel, Priyanka, Cecilia, Fatu, and Ibiyemi. So please get those questions into our question and answer box. We're also seeing lots of comments in the chat. Please keep it going, and we'll be having a rich discussion at the end. I'll now be taking just a few minutes to catch up on time to move the conversation into regional focus in Africa region before we hand over to our program presenters from Gambia and Nigeria, who really have some exciting journeys to share with us. So let me make sure I'm sharing my screen. Just to go into very brief, we're looking at our challenges and our opportunities, the realities that we're facing on the ground, acknowledging them, learning from our experiences, talking very, very briefly about what the toolkit is that we're moving towards to be able to operate in the digital space, and then alluding very in broad brushstrokes to some of the successes we've seen in the region before getting deeper into specific best practice sharing from within programs themselves, which is always the most exciting to hear from. So we know that when we look at ourselves compared to other parts of the world, we know that too many Africans cannot access the technology they need for school, work, health, or financial services. And the pandemic has only made this digital divide more extreme, and it's made us more aware of the exclusion that is faced by too many, but particularly people with intellectual disabilities. However, we know that when we just can make small improvements and small leaps forward, the poverty reduction effects and the welfare effect and increases also can even be more amplified and more effective than in other parts of the world. So it's also a great opportunity. We love looking at what our programs are doing to overcome these challenges. We know that many of our athletes' family members do not have access to their own mobile phone. Here's a great picture shared by Special Olympics Zimbabwe of their athletes that are checking in during COVID at a family health forum and meeting in person, which was of course a great step for us. But before that, we were sending out surveys online, sharing resources online, and we had to ask ourselves the question as Africa region, which athletes are able to answer mobile surveys and how? Of course, you would have remembered Charles Nyambe shared in April 2020 a survey to determine our estimated digital access capability of our athletes. And working on this feedback, our assumption is that 10% of athletes have access to the digital material available from Special Olympics and from their governments and health departments. And this could actually be less. The 10% as well face connectivity and electricity challenges as well. So when we look at data collection and how it's being done, is it by hand or is it digital? Here's a great picture shared by Special Olympics Rwanda of a Healthy Athletes MedFair screening form, showing us that sub-program volunteers sometimes don't have access to a printer, they may be using a photocopier, and they may even be filling out surveys by hand. Despite this, we have seen such success over the last 2 years, but also even before that in the past. All 37 of our programs are submitting census, GMS figures, hundreds of healthy athlete screenings forms, and successfully completing accreditation surveys every year. Here's a great screenshot shared by Special Olympics DRC of one of the first smart sheet surveys that was successfully submitted by them. A question on surveys, and we'll be launching a webinar poll. How many data collection surveys did you submit for your program in 2021 as a rough estimate? Was it 10 or below, 50 or below, 100 or below, or too many to count? It will be great to get some feedback from you, and we'll look at that in the Q&A session. So very broadly, we have seen great successes when we've looked at the challenges of our athletes not having access to online resources. One of those is the Fit5 cards, which I won't go into now because we'll be having a special session shared by Special Olympics Tanzania as a local program best practice tomorrow. There's a picture, one of our latest, still being shared by Special Olympics Malawi even recently and this year in 2022. We made these cards totally editable into different languages on Microsoft PowerPoint. So in the end, we were able to, with no budget, have cards, thanks to the hard work of our programs, in English, French, Portuguese, Kiswahili, which is used in Tanzania and in other East African countries, and even in Siswati from one of our smallest programs, Eswatini, in Africa region. Another success has been the use of free software, free design software that we've been working towards as Africa region, and that is being taken up at a global headquarters level where we can use more user-generated content from our programs and engage in fun professional campaigns and share resources with our programs. And another one again came directly from our program leaders and from our athletes as well, who have requested that we share more information through the platform of WhatsApp, particularly during the hard lockdown where many were not going to the office and accessing their desktop computers. We now have, because of your feedback and your innovation and creativity, a group for our program leaders, our national directors, board chairs, Athlete Input Council, and African Leadership Council, as well as a broadcast list as the region for webinar opportunities, sharing of new online resources, and advertising our upcoming regional events and other milestones. So looking at the toolkit and how we can work together into the future to make this really clear for our programs and for our program staff, our program participants, our volunteers, our clinical director, we'll be looking at how we can plan and adapt for the future and have these conversations in a lot more specificity. And Priyanka has really spoken well to what that can look like in practice across the region, but especially in Africa, we'll be wanting to take all of these steps into account and make sure that we're also focusing a lot as the region on language translation into French for full participation, as well as trainings and empowerment. So please watch this space. As we know, there's always something new out of Africa, and our athletes are not going to be left behind. In fact, they are innovating. And as Mary alluded to, our Regional Athlete Input Council is a lot more active and engaged and powerful and has a voice even than other regions with more digital resources at their disposal. So we look forward to the future. But now I can hand over for our first best practice example, which will be shared by Special Olympics Gambia and presented by Ms. Cecilia Abel-Thomas, National Director, and Ms. Fatou Seka, Program Administration's Assistant. Cecilia has been National Director since 2018, when she was introduced to the Special Olympics movement by the Special Olympics Gambia Vice Chair. And Fatou Seka is 27, hails from Gambia, and has a BSc in political science, which is where she says she nurtured the esteem to fight for human rights, especially those of vulnerable groups. After she learned about Special Olympics Gambia's work in raising awareness and supporting people with intellectual disabilities in 2021, she came on board and joined the team to build inclusive communities. The Gambia is a relatively new program, and it's also situated in a geographically small country, but we've seen such great drive and effort that they've made to grow their digital presence during the pandemic and create social media efforts more or less from scratch. So we've invited them to share more. Cecilia and Fatou, over to you. Cecilia and Fatou, not able to hear you yet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to get off mute. Hi, good morning, everyone. It's nice to virtually speak to all of you. So in 2020, we applied for a grant with the US Embassy. And the reason we chose to apply for a grant, since we started our program in 2017, it was very important for us to raise awareness on a national level. Something we found was that loads of people did not know about Special Olympics, and also we wanted to spread our message of inclusion. We called the campaign Building Inclusive Communities. And the campaign takes on various activities with the aim of educating and changing the perception of people towards people with intellectual disabilities. The first aspect of the project is a mass media campaign where we produced 5 videos. And in those 5 videos, we wanted to talk about 3 aspects. We wanted to talk about the work the Special Olympics does, our message, the voice of the athletes, and the voice of the parents. So before I go further, Rami will just play those short videos.
The Gambia is the smiling coast of Africa where everyone is warm, happy, and they like meeting new people. But it is not everyone that is smiling. Not everyone is seen. They see them, but they don't. They look at them, but they look past them. Most times, people like Alaji, Louis, Yaya, and Hassan are invisible to everyone. They all have intellectual disabilities. Join them to build inclusive communities.
Special Olympics Gambia is the leading voice in raising awareness about the abilities of people with intellectual disabilities. Intellectual disability, or ID, is a term used when a person has certain limitations in cognitive functioning and skills, including communication, socialization, and self-care. These limitations can cause a child to develop and learn more slowly or differently than a typically developing child. Special Olympics transform lives of people with intellectual disability through sports. But it is more than just a sports club. We offer other programs such as Healthy Athletes, Athlete Leadership, Family Network, Young Athletes, Unified Sports.
My name is Anna Marie Baji. I am athlete for the Special Olympics for the Gambia. I run 100 meters and 200 meter race for the Gambia. I like to win medal for the Gambia. I like to train other athletes. We are family. I want the inclusive community in the Gambia.
Maldi Latua, Malati Nakahati leader, Jangana Bine Conte, Bugana Kabata, we need help market tutti. You are Mage, Buganata I go, Nante, the Gambia.
Special Olympics Athlete Leadership Program aims to equip intellectually disabled athletes with knowledge and skills to empower them and allow them to contribute to their communities in leadership roles.
ñu bari dañuy beddi xale yi duñ bugga pour am dugalante ak wala jëflante ak ñoom parce que soo waxee dañ la ne gisoo ki ni mel looy def ak moom loo am affaire ak moom.
jigéen yu am manqué nii si boppam su dañ dee fees loo xam ne lu métti la tamit waaw
bu rombee dañ ko naan dof bi Abdoulaye da dof la mu ngi ñëw daf dee dugg si këri jàmm sa dañ ko dee daaxa
dañ leen war a jàppale téye leen comme nuñ téye yeneen nit yi ñëpp ñu emale leen su boobaa lu yëpp dafa yomba
bugga naa société bi wecci seen jëfin ak ñu ñuy comportement si xale yi ñu mun a ànd ak xale yi nekk benn
bugg naa mu sëy ñi nga xam ne nag dañu am façon doom yi bëri nañ nangu ñoo génne seen doom yi te leen war a génne yàlla def na dem na Dubaï indi fa médaille mu dem Égypte moo jël force sant naa yàlla bu mu bëri
And so as we speak, those videos are being played on TV and also online. We boosted the videos online. We also have radio ads that are playing across different radio stations, and they're being played in English and also the local languages as well. And also the other activities within the project is a family health forum, which you can see pictures of. We held the family health forum last month, and that was on fitness and well-being, and also our unified sports clubs as well. And before COVID, we had weekly sports training at the stadium. And one thing we realized was that we wanted to have it in different regions. And we've been able to expand our sports clubs to 3 different regions, and they're still taking place every Saturday. And then this month we start the national awareness campaign, where we will be targeting 15 schools and local communities as well. And we hold the opening ceremony next week. Teachers to join the. And another aspect that the grant was able to allow us to is to increase our capacity. With that, we've been able to hire new staff and take on a lot more programs. And also something that I remember in trainings, they'll always say is when they talk about media, is to always hire someone else apart from the national director to post online. I don't think I was that good at it. I just, I would forget sometimes because we'd have work tasks. So we hired a program admin, and one of her tasks was to post daily or multiple times a day, because it was very important for us to showcase the work we were doing, because we found that we were doing so much work, but we weren't posting it or we weren't taking quality pictures. So I'll now pass you over to Fatu Seka, our program admin, and she can tell you the work she does on social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. Hello, everyone. My name is Fatu Seka. I am the program assistant administrator. I will present on social media presence. As we all know, social media is one of the best marketing strategy in helping to expose our work as a program. And also it helps us to reach people and communities that we have never anticipated to. So normally when we have event as a program, we encourage our participants to follow our social media platforms, and also to like and sometimes to share our posts. So recently we concluded the local digital summit. We encourage students from the 5 schools that we've done, we held it to follow our social media platforms, and we have received a lot of followers from that event. Like students were following because we posted their pictures, them working with our athletes, and most of the schools turn up following our social media platforms. And as you have seen, our Facebook, Instagram, and also TikTok. Yeah, we are strongly engaging on these 3 platforms as of now. And you can see the picture that our athletes working with a non-intellectual youth leader here, Romy. The picture where our athlete is working with the youth leader. This was one of the pictures that we took during the Digital Local Youth Summit. And it is one of the pictures that got a lot of likes and even shared from the students. So we normally do that. We normally encourage participants from all the events that we've been doing to follow our pages and also to like it and sometimes to even to share it within themselves. So one of the things that Special Olympics Gambia have been strongly engaging is us try to increase our visibility, because as our national director have just mentioned before, like so much work we have been doing, but we have not been showcasing it online. So most of the time, so now we hired a professional photographer that we normally invite whenever we have events to take quality pictures or images that we think that can really help us in enticing followers to follow our pages and also to like us as well. And also we try to post frequently. And this is the thing that we always do. Like this is one of the posting frequently so that we can communicate our values and our culture as a movement. Because of course, when it comes to sport orientation or sport activities, we try to post pictures showing the world what we have been doing. And also when it comes to talent building activities like the athlete leadership program, we also post pictures showing the world how our athletes, how we are trying to encourage our athletes in building their talent, talents as well. And also we always make sure that whenever we are posting pictures, we post them most of the time during peak or best time, because this is the time that we believe that this is the time that we get more engagement, more followers, and people really likes our pictures during those times too. And also joining Special Olympics media campaign is very important for us as a program, because it always keeps us current. For example, campaign like Inclusion Revolution, Lead to Include, or Inclusive Health help us to keep us current. And also it also make us, like for the mission moment training, also equip me to know like what type of pictures I supposed to post. And also the canvas helped me also to entice other followers, because I was able to know how to decorate the image and how to send my message clearly with the content and everything. So basically this is what we do as a program and as a social media administrator, in enticing more followers and also in sending my message across the inclusive work that we've been doing. Thank you so much, and I'm glad to be here. And I'm so honored to share my experience with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cecilia and Fatu. That was really inspiring. It shows how a young and small program can have a big heart and punch way above its weight in the digital space. And it was great to hear from what young women in Gambia are doing to build inclusive communities. It's really inspired me, and I'm sure it's inspired a lot of our other leaders and programs. Next and finally, for this Digitize the Movement session, we'll have our final best practice shared by Special Olympics Nigeria's Initiatives Manager, Ibiyemi Ayeni. Ibiyemi joined Special Olympics Nigeria in May 2018, and she functions in designing and implementing solution-driven projects aimed at reducing inequality and promoting inclusion of persons with intellectual disabilities. She's going to share on a really exciting project from Nigeria. I'd love to speak more on it, but I would really want her to take it away and tell us what Nigeria has done in their identification for inclusion work in Special Olympics Nigeria. Over to you, Ibiyemi. Take us away.
Thanks, Romy. Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. So I'm just here to share our experience regarding the identification for inclusion, ID4I solution. So a quick outline, we'll just start talking about the ID4I project. and then we'll talk about our implementation and our coverage area. We'll also talk about the number of people we reached, the lessons we've learned, our partners during the implementation, and our plan for this year. So about the identification for inclusion. So the idea actually was birthed from the importance of a national identification now in Nigeria. In Nigeria, there's a national identification number to get access to various services. For example, when it comes to, we were able to go and register with the Mission Billion Challenge, which was sponsored by the World Bank, sorry, excuse me. Hello, sorry about that. Yes, our summary project is, the summary of our plan. We started off with the summary of our plan, which entailed starting out a plan, and then also we needed to create awareness about the project's activities. And then we also needed to go into the various communities to establish the mobile registration centers. And then also we needed to coordinate the issuance of a national identification number in the various communities that we go into. The objectives of the ID for I project, really, we wanted to try to facilitate registration of people with intellectual disabilities across Nigeria, because we realized when we go out to our games, we needed to start issuing people with intellectual disabilities with, with the passports. We coordinated everything from start to finish, getting their birth certificates ready to be able to get access to their passports. So we realized that it was really important for everyone to get a national identification number so that they can get access to services that they truly need. Okay, so knowing that now, sorry about the previous interruption, we'll just go back on track and in the next slide. So we wanted to put the implementation in 3 phases. Starting off with number 1, we needed to create awareness, like I mentioned in our plan. And to do that, we wanted to go ahead and develop educational materials. And then also we needed to share that educational material with our target audience. That is people with intellectual disabilities, their family members, and also the teachers and head of staff in various schools and centers around Lagos, Nigeria. And the outcome we wanted to achieve really was to make sure that people are aware of the importance of having a national identification number, which we call an NIN, because that is going to give them access to a world of opportunities and services. It's also here, right, to get access to financial services, you need your NIN. To get access to passport services, like I mentioned earlier, you need an NIN. To get your SIM card for your mobile phone registered, you need an NIN number. So all of this really has really become very important. And that's why we needed our people with intellectual disabilities, our athletes, and their family members to really know the importance of an NIN. And then phase 2, we wanted to establish partnership with the National Identification Management Commission, who are actually in charge of issuing a national identification number. So for us to do that, we needed to establish in Lagos State, since we were piloting the solution in Lagos State, Nigeria. And once we were able to do that, they were able to help us pinpoint the various local governments in Lagos, and also centers that we'll be able to establish as mobile registration centers in those local government areas for our athletes. And then also they gave us a time that we could come in to organize training for their staff, so that their staff will be able to, wanted to sensitize their staff so that they will be able to be more, tolerant of people with ID and patients with them while they're going through this registration process. So that was our outcome really was to, partner with NIMC, train them and sensitize them on people with intellectual disabilities, and also share some educational material with them. Now, the third phase was really just the issuance of the NIN. And for us to do that, the activities we had to do was, like we said, we identified various registration centers. We also had to organize dates with the NIMC staff when they'll be able to go out to those centers to do the registration. And due to that, we had to publicize those registration dates with everybody. So we had to use social media, our websites, and also communicate with them via WhatsApp. That's our target audience, so they know when we'll be registering in the various locations. And then when we're at the sites, we needed to organize various things to make sure that the registration process went seamless. And the outcome really is the issuance of a national identification number to our athletes. And also we're able to create a database of those who were able to register. The next slide will be of detailing the areas where we were able to cover. So like I mentioned earlier, we kickstarted off in Lagos State. And within Lagos State, we're able to go into these regions that we highlighted here. So these are the local government areas in Lagos State, and those were the areas we were able to reach. Next slide, please. So all in all, the beneficiaries reached were over 1,000 people living with intellectual disabilities. And in total, we reached over 1,300 people, but the extra people would be, the parents that had not yet gotten an NIN that were interested in registering, and also partners that were also interested in registering for a national identification number. And we were able to reach a broad range of people aged 3 years and above. We also were able to reach over 45% of our target audience, which were females. And we were very pleased about that, because that means that we were educating, we were promoting access for females who typically are usually, left behind to access various services and opportunities, so that they'll be able to also get opportunities that they truly need as well. We entered into 19 local governments in Lagos State. We were able to do the registration in over 40 special schools and centers in those local government areas. And that we are proud of. To publicize this movement, on the next slide, we'll be talking about what major media outlets we used. So we created a page on our website specifically for this project. We also released news reports as we went ahead and progressed in implementation of this project. We used our various social media handles. We used Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn to promote where we would be, experiences we were having, and just to give people an update as to what we were achieving. During the period that we were implementing the ID4I, unfortunately, Twitter was banned, so we couldn't really officially post on Twitter, but we utilized the remaining social media handles to the best of our abilities. We also used WhatsApp to disseminate information as well. Through partnership with one of our partner organization, SONU, we're able to publicize our impact at the end of the project for 2021 in our Business Day newspaper in January of this year. All our pictures and our and everything regarding media we posted on our Flickr page. We also developed a video which we posted on YouTube for everyone to see what we were able to achieve. Our lessons learned that we captured during the implementation of this pilot, the pilot of the ID4I in Lagos State, included the following. right? What we learned while implementing was that a lot of our athletes, especially those who were left in homes or left on by the roadside, don't really have we don't really have bio data information on them. We don't really have, especially the homes where they are staying, they don't really have their last names in some regards, some dates. So in order for us not to guess, we couldn't necessarily capture those athletes. Also, some of the parents didn't really have an NIN, and in some centers, parents were not present with athletes, or guardians were not present with athletes, and those athletes, despite the sensitization, the parents were not really interested in pursuing and seeing things through. So they weren't able to register some of those athletes. Then also we needed funding for transportation to be able to facilitate getting NIMC staff to the various locations spread across Lagos. We needed transportation to get them and their equipment to the various centers. And centers, we had a safe space, an office that was lockable, so that we can put their computers, their data capturing equipment, with the fingerprinting equipment that they brought in for registration, so we can store them properly during the duration of the registration. In Nigeria, we don't have access to stable electricity. So it was important for us to make sure that we provide generators at every registration site, so that we were able to make sure that they have lights 24/7 during the registration. We also needed to make sure that there was internet access, because the registration required them to upload the data to their system nationally. And for that to happen, we needed internet. So we needed to ensure that we had internet service providers and get modems in these centers. And not only that, we needed to make sure we got the accurate and the best internet service provider that works best in that location, because we could have gotten one internet provider, but then in that particular location, that service provider was not as effective. So we need to ensure that as well. Something that we did early on was that while we were making the plans, we tried to foresee all the possible risks or all the possible issues that might arise. So something that we thought about was making sure that, okay, once they disperse the NIN slips to us, we would need to know whose name belongs where, so that just in case they release it to us in bulk, we're able to determine what needs to go where. And also we wanted to make sure that there's no issue of somebody telling us that we got registered and we didn't get a slip. So while the NIN staff were taking their own data and capturing their data, Special Olympics staff was also on ground taking data, and we made sure that everybody in every location captured that data uniformly. And that also helped us to collate things to make sure we're, that fun slide I showed you about, how many people we reached and the percentage of females we were able to get and the age range. We were able to do that because we were on ground also collecting as much data as we possibly could uniformly across all our locations. And that also helped. The last part was really and truly, we originally went on a tight schedule. We sat down with the NIMC staff and we thought to ourselves, oh, okay, we estimate we'll have 300 people in so location. So maybe we would need 10 days at this location, because NIMC will tell us that team is capable of registering, maybe 50 people a day or something like that. With that data, we were able to estimate how many days we would need to be at a location, right? And so that was how we were able to plan certain things. But what we didn't really planned for is that capturing an athlete is different from capturing, somebody without capturing a partner, right? We had some difficulties getting our athletes to get their fingers, straight or a certain way so that they can capture. So it took longer, even their faces, to get pictures of their faces. It took way longer than we thought. So being able to have a flexible schedule in the future is what we've learned. And that's pretty much all the major things that we learned during the implementation of the ID4I solution. And then also, and that's what we'll be able to plan better for future implementation. For 2021, our partners were as follows. Obviously, the National Identity Management Commission, the NIMC staff in Lagos State. They were so amazing. I think even the training we were able to do with them originally helped us to really sensitize them towards athletes, and they were so patient with our athletes. And without them, this project would not be possible, right? And also the Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board, thanks to their partnership and to their approval, we're able to use some of our special centers in Lagos State as registration sites. Also, Central Security Clearing Systems, they are our partners. They've been our partners, supporting our program yearly. And last year, they were able to donate a lot of face masks to us. So that also helped to keep us safe during implementation of the program. And also SONU communication. Through them, we were able to get a feature in Business Day this year about the ID4I project. And those were our partners for 2021. In 2022, we plan to move to Oyo State, hopefully through more support from organizations and partners, we'll be able to get to more states. But that's our goal for 2022, to go into Oyo State and to reach up to 3,000 people with intellectual disabilities. And we're going to share the video that we're able to develop with you, and hopefully you're able to see what we achieved this year. Thank you all for listening.
In the world today, there are over 20 million people that have intellectual disability. And more often, we neglect them. They are vulnerable, they are marginalized people in our society. Why? Because we are not patient enough. We are not patient enough to understand them. They may not be able to do something that you and I can do. They have life like you and I have life. Unfortunately, many of us, when you go to our center, we don't register them. Are they not part of our society? Talk to me, please. Yeah. They are.
Special Olympics Nigeria in 2020 applied for the Mission Billion Challenge, and we were able to win funding for the Identification for Inclusion ID4I solution. What the solution is really is to facilitate the nationwide registration of people living with intellectual disabilities living in Nigeria. To limit the barriers to registration, we came up with a three-phase approach. Number one, we wanted to educate and create awareness amongst the parents of people with intellectual disabilities so that they actually know and understand the benefits of registering for a national identification number. Two, we did partnership and training with the National Identification Management Commission to train their mobile staff on how to deal with people with intellectual disabilities, how to recognize their different abilities, be patient and be tolerant towards them. And then finally, we deployed mobile staff to the various communities of people living with intellectual disabilities to ensure that people living with intellectual disabilities are registered across Nigeria. We kickstarted this project in Lagos State.
This is my son. He's a special child. His name is Adelokun Abdulibaki Okweyemi. The Special Olympic came to do the N9N in our school free. We're trying to do it before. Because of his condition, I've been trying it, but to carry him to the center is not an easy, because he's a boy that has seizure and he can have attack anywhere.
I appreciate the effort of Mission Billion and Special Olympic Nigeria for the N9N for my child.
We registered over 1,000 people living with intellectual disabilities, and this is all thanks to the Mission Billion Challenge, partnership with National Identification Management Commission, and also the Special Olympics Nigeria staff.
Thank you, Ibiyemi, for sharing that inspiring journey from Special Olympics Nigeria. You are really pioneering the way that we use digital in Africa to include people with intellectual disabilities in our societies as equal citizens. I'm now pleased to open the question and answer session. We've already been having a lot of discussions, a lot of comments. A lot of our questions are already answered, but please feel free to ask your questions and post your comments. Remember, both English and French are welcomed. And you're welcome to post questions in our Facebook live stream too. If we don't answer them during this session, we'll still make sure to get back to you with the response later. So just while we have our last few moments of time before we go into the discussion, I'd like to share our icebreaker and our contributions from our Regional Athlete Input Council. Just to see some of the responses that we got from you about your favorite digital platform. We got a lot in the chat box, and from our athlete leaders, it looks great. A lot of our best photos were shared. People have shared their Instagram handles, a nice photograph of themselves. We have quite a few here. So please keep sending your answers. We'd love to look at them tomorrow and do more of them, and we'll be downloading this and sharing it as part of our conference package. So many responses to Nigeria, to Gambia, to Priyanka. I think the questions were somehow answered, particularly around the sensitivity of our athletes, our healthy athletes' medical screening information and how those are secured. Some contacts were made with Priyanka in the use of customer relationship management systems such as Salesforce, and what training is coming next. It's a great question, and I'd just like to see if there's any more specific questions that I can direct to one of our panelists. I think we don't have any open questions unless I'm missing one. We will definitely be sharing any opportunities that we receive from Priyanka and headquarters, anything that we're doing as the region. And I know that we'll be able to share all of these videos from Special Olympics Nigeria and Special Olympics. Very pleased for you to share them more broadly, share them on your platforms, pitch them to your local media partners and see what they'd like to do to your national identification number systems. So please use the learnings, share, and feel free to ask any questions. I would just like to open it up while we are privileged to have Priyanka, Ibiyemi, Fatu, and Cecilia on with us. If you'd like to respond to any of the responses that you've seen in the comments, the chats, the questions on our Padlet. We also had a poll asking people how many surveys they've answered. I think the majority at least answering 10 to 50 surveys for Special Olympics each year. I'm surprised it's that low. For me, it feels like we're always sending out surveys, so I think they are being modest. But let me hand it over to our panel if you have any final thoughts or encouragements before we move to our conference closing.
Thanks, Romy. I might just add that a lot of the questions were about training and opportunities to receive training. So one of the suggestions I might make is that I work with your team, you and Charles, to find out where the demand is, and then we can schedule some virtual trainings for those platforms or projects that we talked about today as a follow-up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Priyanka. Any final thoughts from Nigeria or from Gambia? Thank you. Oh, please go ahead, Ibiyemi.
Now, I just wanted to say that we're all just working towards, making sure we partner with the right organizations to get to achieve our goal. So as much as possible, just continue to look for opportunities to partner with others. And you never know what can happen. I'm wishing everybody the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibiyemi. Thank you, Cecilia, Fatu, and Priyanka. I think it was an inspiring session. It was a session with a lot for us to think about and to grab hold of and take forward.